Hey, what's going on? This is Kyle at ProjectionHub, and today I'm going to be showing you how to write a business plan for a dispensary if you plan to open one. Now, what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to be using this free business plan template, which you can grab in the description down below, totally free. There should be a link popping up here. You can grab that and follow along and fill it out for your business, but it's filled out with a totally fictitious example that we put together for a prospective dispensary. And in this video, I'm going to be looking at this from the perspective of if maybe you're trying to apply for financing, or maybe even use it to pitch to an investor, but more likely for a business loan. And I'm going to be going through and showing you the structure of the business plan at kind of a high level, making comments along the way. And then there will be 5 key things that I think that you need to focus on putting a little additional effort in to increase your likelihood of getting approved for financing. And I think if you do that, you're giving yourself the best shot you can to get approved. And so first, you might be thinking like, well, who are you? Who's ProjectionHub? And how credible are you to be talking about this? Which is a great question. First off, ProjectionHub has helped more than 50,000 small businesses create financial projections for their own applications, their pitch decks, their business plans, you name it. And we've been doing it for over 10 years now. And in my time before I was with ProjectionHub, I was an SBA lender, so a Small Business Administration lender. And I was a loan officer, so I would review small business loan applications, review their business plans, review their financial projections, and help them put together a package to get approved for financing. And so I'm going to be looking at it through that perspective today. Now, again, this isn't guaranteed getting approved, but I do think this will put you, on the right track to giving you the best chances you can. So I'm going to go through, and then when I get to those different points, I will stop and try to show you a little bit more examples and demonstration on how you can accommodate for your business plan as well. So let's go ahead. Oh, actually, I should mention, if at any point you like the video, give us a thumbs up, maybe leave a comment on what you appreciated, and maybe even consider subscribing to the channel. Not all of our content is around, obviously starting a dispensary, but we have other tips and tricks just for business management and financial management for your business in general that you might find useful. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so why is your business plan important? And maybe this sounds cliche or obvious, but what your business plan shouldn't be is a tool that has to educate a lender or the reader. You should be assuming that they probably understand the business and the industry already. And instead, you should be focusing on outlining what your goals are and what you consider to be success that you're going towards. And then what is your specific plan, your business plan to make that happen, to reach those goals. And the better job you can do building confidence in your lender that you have a high degree of being likely that you're going to be successful in that, then also that increases the likelihood that they're going to approve your loan, right? So if they can't approve you or don't want to approve you, it's probably because they don't have a high degree of confidence that you're actually going to be successful in the plan you've outlined. And so we want to increase that confidence. So going through here, first thing I want to stop and point out is this table of contents. So you can see the general structure and the flow, but the main thing I want to point out is it's only 18 pages long. And so a lot of times when I was a lender, people used to think that they had to have a long business plan in order for us to take it seriously or to be respected. And I would actually say the opposite is kind of true. If someone gave me a 50-page business plan or longer than that, there's no way we were going to read that whole thing. We were going to skim it, or we were going to jump to the financial projections more often than not. So the longer your business plan gets, the more spread out the important details are, which means they're more likely to get missed because the lender's going to have to be skimming through it because your loan isn't the only loan that they're considering. And so now, less than 5 pages or something is probably not going to help you because there's no way you can put as helpful information as possible in there. But another thing I want to point out to you here is that the projections are almost half the business plan. They are the most important part of your business plan. Obviously, we're a little biased being ProjectionHub, and I'm going to show you a little bit later in the video, I'll show you more about that. But a lot of times the projections are an afterthought and something that the business owner is not thinking about until the lender asks for them. So this is an encouragement to start taking that seriously now, prepare them, be proactive, and really gear up for that. Okay, so let's go ahead and really dig in here. First, we've got the executive summary. So I want you to think about this as like the cover letter for your resume for a job application. So we're not making a decision. Your lender's not making a decision based on this, but it is kind of their introduction to you. So, give a nice little background on the business, outline what your short-term and long-term goals are. Now, if you have specific financial goals or something, you can outline those in here. Maybe short-term is we hope to break even within the first 12 months. Long-term could be we hope to open a second location or a third location within 5 years, something like that. So try to make it specific. You'll find in this example, it's not super specific. It's a little bit more generalized, but I encourage you to get as specific as possible wherever you can. Mission and vision statements, I would say skip them unless you actually mean it. Don't put like our mission is to change the world, because that's just kind of a waste of space in the business plan. But if there's something that about your mission that's really to your core and it's going to change the way you fundamentally run this business, then include that. And one thing that's missing in here that you might consider is some people put a little paragraph about some financial details. So startup costs, when they plan to break even, how much financing do they need, that kind of thing. Moving along, company description, kind of an extension of the executive summary, but this is where we start to talk a little bit more about like the identity of the business. So the company history, let's think about this as like the founder story, like what brought you to this point? Like, why are you starting your own business? Why are you opening your own dispensary? A little bit about your experience, maybe. We'll talk more about that later, but you can start doing that here. Unique selling proposition and target market are two important details. Unique selling proposition is especially important if your area, it's competitive with other dispensaries. If it's already a little saturated in that market, then you really need to identify what's going to make your place different. Because if you're ultimately selling the same products, you need to talk more about, well, how are you going to sell them differently than other people? How are you going to attract people differently? And that might be an experience thing. Maybe you can offer even lower prices because you have a special connection in the industry. That's what you want to focus on there. And then the target market, try to be specific about, who you're trying to cater to. All right, now market analysis is where we're going to get into our first of the 5 key points. And I'll talk about that at the end of this section. So when we talk about the industry, don't think like Shark Tank industry, where they're like, the cannabis industry is a $3 trillion industry. Like, that's way too vague. That's way too high level. We want to talk about the actual addressable market for us. Like, what's the finger on the pulse of the actual industry that we can impact and that we can see customers from? And is there room in the market for us is really what we're trying to get to. So talk about that as like an overview. What's the state of dispensaries or cannabis acceptance in the area, or even legality, maybe in your rate. Like, I'm in Indiana, so it's not even legal here recreationally. And so like that would be a difficult component for us. But maybe if we knew it was going to be legalized in 2 years or something like that, right, we would be talking about that in our business plan. But the competitor analysis, this is where you want to highlight and actually list the name of the business. If they are selling what you sell to the people you want to sell it to, put them in here. And then what you want to do is highlight what they do really well and maybe what they don't do well, because that might be an opportunity for you. For example, maybe your town has one dispensary and that's where everybody goes because it's really the only option in town. It's the only game in town. But maybe their Google reviews are terrible. Maybe people like very clearly wouldn't go there if they had another option. Talk about that, right? Like, well, this is our competition, but they are really screwing it up. And if we came in town, we would probably have some good business because they're not taking care of their customers. So include that in here. Again, you can go into more detail about your target market if you'd like to, beyond what we've already talked about there. And market opportunities, again, talk about maybe regulation or legality changes or creating an opportunity, or maybe, like I said, the main game in town is not taking care of their customers and that's an opportunity. So go into detail more there. A key point number 1, and this, I want you to think about this as like, we're actually showing a little bit more data or demonstration to the points we've made already. Okay, so there's one thing to like just talk about it, but what we really want to avoid is the mindset of like, oh, the market's out there, we just have to build it and people will show up. We really want to try to provide some specific examples that demonstrate that there's actually a market that we can be involved with. So, and if there is a market and there's not room, we need to demonstrate that we're going to disrupt that market and steal something from it. So here's a couple of examples maybe to do that. This is just Google Trends data that I'm looking at. Dispensary near me has a search in the United States. Now I think we could maybe, let's do like the state of Michigan and Indiana. Let's see what that trend has been like. Obviously growing over the last few years, but maybe like, let's go back to 12 months. Pretty flat. I'm guessing it's a little bit seasonal in nature. Maybe it goes down as the weather gets colder, but higher at the end of the year than it was at the beginning of the year, or at least close to that. And let's go back to 5 years and let's just kind of look. It's still growing overall, right? And a couple years ago, it's at higher points. That's a promising thing. You can use a tool like Key Search or Ahrefs or SEMrush, where you can do specific keyword search volume just to see how often things are being searched geographically near you. You can see volume and trend data there. Google Trends is free, by the way, and you can zoom in on that, do specific keyword data if you want. You can also do the old-fashioned way of just go to Google Maps search dispensary near me, zoom out to where you think your target area is going to be. So this is Indiana, so this probably isn't a great, demonstration. It's primarily just going to be CBD and maybe it's like smoke accessories. But you can see there's not a ton of options, right? So if, I know from living in this area that there's population centers in here. There's strip malls, there's whatever that would make probably for a great location. So I know that this is probably not saturated and there's a good demand there. So do that same practice in your area. Is that there's a lot of dispensaries in a small point area that might be kind of a tough sell. So use tools to try and demonstrate opportunity and demand. Take screenshots, write about those screenshots, put that in your business plan. I promise you that is much better than just saying, oh yeah, there's a market. Okay, moving forward, marketing and sales strategy. So here, you're going to go into more detail about specifically what your product is. Don't list every single product you're going to sell. Maybe just categorically, what are those products, your price point, your pricing strategies. Again, your sales strategy is like if you're going to be brick and mortar, or can you do it e-commerce, or are you going to ship it directly to their house? Whatever your strategy is going to be, can you deliver? I know that's becoming more popular in some states. And then you're probably going to say, we'll have a website and we'll post on social media and maybe we'll have a email list. Like that's all great. And that's kind of a minimum expectation that you should be doing those things. Key point number 2, just how like in the section before this, we wanted to demonstrate that there actually is a market. Now that we've done that, we need to demonstrate that we can actually get customers in the door, more so than just saying like, we're going to do these things we're supposed to do and hopefully people will show up. This is going to be what's called traction is a common term in tech. And that is how can we demonstrate that we actually have momentum so that when it comes time to officially open, we're not on square one, we're on square 5, right? We already have customers, we already have people engaging with our business. And this might take a little bit of creativity on your part because, to be honest, I'm not familiar regulation-wise how much you can do pre-launch if that requires like certifications or licenses or that kind of thing. So you probably can't, sell at a pop-up booth in a farmer's market if you don't have a specific license and area to operate, is my guess. So maybe you can't actually be selling before you're officially open. But maybe what you can be doing is start creating a buzz. The next best thing, so pre-launch revenue is the best example of traction, right? Pre-launch users. If you could include data, that's the best. The second best thing is lists of people, interested people, because that demonstrates that there's a customer base at day one and you're actually hustling. You're doing what it takes to try and do that before you even launch the business. So an idea might be create a founders club list where people sign up to receive a small discount for the first year on all purchases. This creates a list of people you expect to show up when the doors open. And if you can go to your lender and say, we've got 400 people signed up for our founders list, and so we expect to have a customer base that's supporting us as soon as we open, right? And then if each one of those people purchases 2 times in the first month, that's what the numbers look like, right? Kind of play out that math to give your lender a little bit more like meat to chew on there, right? Versus just like, we're going to build it and people show up. But instead you can say like, we've got 400 potential customers. This is what those numbers could look like. That's a really great thing to do. Okay, moving on, operations and management. Here you're just going to kind of outline, how's the machine going to work? Are you going to have a storefront? How many people are you planning to hire? How your hours going to work? What software you're going to use when you have a point of sale solution? Are you going to be renting or buying the property? Like, just talk about the details of how to make the business work. The main takeaway, the main key point. So you need to do that. That's again a minimum expectation. The thing that will make this point shine, this section shine, is relevant industry experience. So your lender is going to want to know, 1, do you know what you're getting yourself into? And 2, do you know what you're doing? So you need to highlight that you have the relevant experience to have their confidence that you are going to be able to reach your goals and pay back your loan. And if that experience is in cannabis specifically, maybe it's just in retail management, maybe it's in sales, maybe it's in marketing, like include your relevant experience. And then whatever experience shortfall that you have that is necessary, how are you supplementing that? Is that with a partner? Is that with a key employee? Is that with an advisor, a mentor? Like, you just want to make sure you cover your bases, because the more you can say like, oh yeah, we're ready to go. We have all of our bases covered. We know what we're doing. That puts your lender at ease and gives them more confidence to approve, financing for you. So give them less reason to be concerned that you know what you're doing, or that you don't know what you're doing. So that's key point number 3. Let's keep moving along to the big section here, which is financial projections. So here you can see we've outlined our startup costs to get the business open. we've got a little, I know I'm zoomed out a little bit right now, but we've got a little summary page here of, let's see if this is gonna be too big when I zoom in. You can have your 5-year breakdown of revenue projections, cost of goods sold, gross profit, all those fun key financial datas. And then you've got like this dispensary specific summary table here. So estimated number of customers, how many ounces you're selling, customer visits per day, regular customers, key financial ratios, your monthly operating expenses. So each month, what are the recurring expenses? Some people would call this overhead. You've got a 5-year income statement, projected, P&L. You've got 5-year cash flow projections, 5-year balance sheet projections, a break-even point, and kind of like your sales growth. Now, this is the point where a lot of times business owners get really overwhelmed, because a lot of times the projections are an afterthought, but I'm encouraging you to make it a priority. And a lot of times it's overwhelming because they don't know how to create these. It's a difficult set of skills, and a lot of times it results in paying an accountant a lot of money. Well, lucky for you, all of those charts and projections I just showed you were created using this template. This template was built by our very own CPA accountant in-house to make it easy for a business owner to do it by themselves. I promise you this will be the cheapest, easiest way to get accurate financial projections for your business. So don't get overwhelmed with seeing an Excel file here. You can also use this in Google Sheets. We're only editing information on these blue tabs. And on those blue tabs, we're only editing information in these blue boxes. And so we're only gonna be editing the numbers you already know about your business, right? Again, there's a lot of information here. We're only touching these blue sections. A little bit of advertising, some conversion rates, what are your product categories? How much are you selling? What's the cost of each product? Stuff you already know about your business. And then it's gonna automatically start to calculate the things you need. Here's your expenses, your overhead expenses. And then if you've got any employees, when they're gonna start, you can outline that in here. And it's gonna create all of this stuff for you automatically. And any changes you make, they automatically get updated. This is what your lender needs. Most will need 2 or 3 years. These go out to 5 years just to be conservative. I promise you, it's very doable. You can do it. And I will put a link to that template in the description below. At the end of the video, I'll give you a discount code for that template as well. But key point number 4 is not to create financial projections. That, again, minimum requirement, you have to have financial projections for a startup. But key point number 4 is that they are realistic and within kind of industry norm. So you might be saying well, how am I supposed to know if they're realistic? And my advice would be to just go to Google. Use Google, or if you're comfortable with tools like ChatGPT or an AI search, you can just ask them too. And let's just play this out a little bit, okay? So gross profit might range from 40 to 70% for a healthy dispensary. Let's go back to our projections. I've got a gross profit calculation right here, 69%, 70%, 71%. So I'm a little bit on the high end, but still within that range, right? So I might be a little, might be a little optimistic on my projections. Net profit doesn't give us one, but that would be your net income percentage down here. I think this is probably a little high. So we might want to either check to see if we're being optimistic on our expenses. Here we have operating costs as a percentage of revenue, 30 to 50%. 40%, 20%. So you can see here we're a little low on our operating expenses. So we might want to go back and see if we're missing something. So that's the exercise that you would want to do there. You fill out your projections to your best ability and then start checking that with research. Just looking for things and making sure it's within range. Also, if you get our projection template, free support to help answer questions, and we offer a complimentary review. So after you fill out your projections, you can send us your file. We'll go through it and review it, give you some feedback, record videos like this to just give you some pointers, just to make sure you can feel comfortable using those projections. So that's key point number 4. Go ahead and grab that template down in the description below. And then that brings us to the end of the business plan. There's one more key point, specifically if you're trying to get a loan for the business, and that is just to talk about this concept of skin in the game. So similarly, if you're going to go get a loan to buy a house, you're going to be required to put a down payment in. You're going to be, personally on the hook to pay back that loan, and the loan needs to be collateralized with the house. Just like with buying a business, if you need a $100,000 loan, the bank's not going to give you 100% of that. They might give you 80% of it. So maybe they give you 80,000, but you've got to come up with the other 20 grand. You're going to be personally guaranteeing the loan. So if the business doesn't pay back that loan, you personally will have to be responsible for that. And then also collateral, right? If you buy a building for the business, right there's your collateral. If you don't and you're renting, dispensaries don't have a ton of equipment in them. So you're going to have you're going to be under collateralized, which means your lender's probably going to want some personal collateral. That might be a second on your mortgage. That might be a cosigner. That might be a free and clear car, like something that's not probably super fun for you. And they don't do that to be a bad guy. That's just, they're trying to mitigate their risk if the loan isn't paid back, that they can try to be made whole. So when I was a lender, a lot of times people would say to me that they received the advice to keep personal and business separate. And so they didn't want their name to be on the loan, just the business's loan. That's great advice when it comes to bank accounts, accounting. It's not realistic advice when it comes to actually getting a loan. You will be required to have your name on that loan, personally guarantee it. And I promise you that is the case. Just be realistic about that. So you don't have to give all those things. You can have a list that you won't go past things if they're requested. That just might eliminate your ability to get approved for financing in some cases. So my encouragement is just to know, just be aware of this, okay? Do your homework, know what you have available, know what you're willing to give, so that when the time comes and they ask, you can be prepared to respond instead of being caught off guard when that time comes. So there you have it. That's the how-to business plan for a new dispensary. As promised, let me give you that promo code for the projection template, PH20BP. That'll get you 20% off. Here's the video walkthrough of how to do it. The link for the template's down in the description below for both the business plan and the projection template. Email us at support@projectionhub.com if you have any questions or need any help. Like the video, leave us a comment on what you appreciated if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel, and we will catch you on the next one.